Hi, and welcome back to Comic Book Gallery. I'm your host, Joaquin. So as I walk on the stage here, doo-doo-doo. Hi, welcome back. Sorry I didn't make a video on Monday, was feeling a little bit under the weather, but I found some books that I thought I would talk about that I find interesting because I'm an X-Men fan, always have been, always will be, and my goal is to collect from 100 to 300 because I really did enjoy that run and they have some nice keys. And then collect as many keys um, from 1 to 100 that I'm able to afford depending on the condition. I mean, it'd be great if I could get the X-Men #1, but with my budget right now, that's not happening. But let's look at what I did afford to get, or I could afford to get, or at what point I had money and I bought these books. I think we'll go with that one. So first up is 150, The Uncanny X-Men. So if I hit my mark right here, is the reason why I have that book down. You'll see it at the end. So Uncanny X-Men 160 is the first appearance of Ileana as Magic, or the adult version of her. The writer is Chris Claremont, and the art is Brent Anderson. A lot of people will think that Belasco, who makes an appearance in the year, that this is his first appearance. Now, when I looked this up on eBay, I saw one listing that showed that, which I thought was a little bit curious because when I was looking up the price and the background on the book, it did not mention that it was. So his first appearance is Khazar the Savage, number 11, 1982. So in a previous video, I'll get a little bit more adjusted. In a previous video, I have said that I like to keep my notes in the back right here. Now, if there's I will be keeping notes in the back of here just to talk about the book for a highlight, but I'm talking about for notes for your collection. Like this is an important minor key. So that's why I have these notes. I have the writer, I have what's important about the book. And so this is not a book that should be glanced over. And I also put down here, which I thought was important, the reminder that this is not the first appearance of Belasco. So in this issue, Ileana is kidnapped, and I want to say it's the first appearance of Limbo, if I remember correctly. So she's brought down there, the X-Men go to save her, and at the last second she's pulled back into their reality, but she's brought back as a teenager, so she's no longer a child, and it ends off with like Colossus watching her sleep. So this kicked off, it was a one-shot appearance as far as we go into the run. So this was 160. Now here's a book that I thought was really interesting. So 161, Professor Xavier and Magneto, they meet up here. Now I'm not sure if this, I don't think, they don't meet up officially. No, let me this issue is more of they go back in time and Professor X is trying to remember a story. And he remembers the first time that he met Magneto. And so you get the origin of Magneto. This is after the Brood attack. So he's still, that's it. So he's still in a coma. And I want to show you something that I thought was really funny about this book. So the X-Men are trying to figure out what to do. Not that I find that part funny. So here's where he meets Magneto and eventually he's going to find out that Magneto is a master of magnetism and that he's a mutant. So he gets in contact with a friend who wants to help him treat this woman here who's in a coma. So he uses his psychic abilities to free her. I don't find that, that's not what I found that was humorous. What I thought was humorous because of Professor Xavier and his abilities of being a moral character, in these panels right here, he he's talking to her, and then she's like, "Then I'll have to use all my feminine wiles to attract its attention." Ah, Gabby, you believe you're in love with me, dot bubbles, but you aren't, not really, and yet you need to be loved and to be loved. Oh, sorry. And yet your need to love and be loved is as genuine, as great as my own. I owe you everything, dear Charles, but I have no means of repaying you. Save this. I should not do this, but if it makes us both happy and brings us solace we seek, what then is the harm? End scene. So in this scene right here, that you see why that I'm not an actor, nor ever will be. And for some of you who are around my age or who have seen these movies, you're like, man, I thought Ed Wood movies were bad. So he knows what he's doing. He's taking advantage of the situation, but he goes along with it anyways. So at one point, Hydra, Baron Strucker is involved, and they kidnap her. Oops, lost my mark. They kidnap her. They save him. Magneto has to use his power in front of them. And at the very end, they don't kill Baron Strucker right away. They drop a mountain on him, so they're assuming he's dead, but I don't believe this is his death. Magneto, at one point, they had discovered that the reason why that they needed her was that she had a location to a secret vault that had all this gold. So it ends off with Magneto flying away and taking all the gold. And at the very end, Charles wakes up from his coma, and so everybody's happy. But now we're still dealing with the Brood, which brings us to 162, which is a solo Wolverine story. And they explain his powers of his mutant healing factor, that the Brood had put all these eggs in all the X-Men. In fact, they put queens in there. And he was able to resist it. So his body just treated it like any other infection and just kicked it out. But he's being chased down by the Brood, and he slowly makes his way back. So, one more little thing. I always liked this cover. I thought it was cool. And now 163. I always thought this was a cool cover in the sense of, this reminded me of Aliens, and you had, Sigourney Weaver? I know I mispronounced her name. And right here was the Brood, and Kitty Pryde is actually in an airlock scene where she hits the button and the Brood goes out the airlock and she phases away till safety. So it's a continuation of the story, and Wolverine's trying to figure out what he's going to do with the X-Men. I mean, he knows what he's got to do. He's got to kill them, but he's trying to figure out another way to save them. And 164. This is the first appearance of Binary. So what happens in this issue, the Brood try to transform her, and they do some tests, but it fails, and she becomes Binary. At first, when I was reading this book, it doesn't really explain how she became Binary that well. It's not until the next book, the next few books, that you learn about an alien race called the Akante, which come in and help save the X-Men, which is the only reason why they're being able to be saved. But you won't find that out until a few issues later, or issue later, give or take. But I gotta point this cover out. While I do love the pose of it, and I love the use of colors and how we have all this bright red, and it looks like her boots, and it's the thigh-high boots, they did not need this right here. They didn't. They could have just ended it right here, but they had to go there. So, yeah, I think it takes away from the design of her costume, actually. But great cover. speaking of great covers, here's another great cover. So, Uncanny X-Men 165. When I first saw this cover and I was about to read it, I was like, whoa, here it comes. The X-Men are transforming into the Brood. It's going to be crazy. How are they going to get away? I mean, how are they going to heal themselves? So Storm almost becomes a Brood, and she's able to resist it. And back on Earth, Professor X thinks that he's lost the X-Men. I also want to pose a question. Do you think Storm is somewhat of a demigod? Because this isn't the first time she's been able to resist a situation where normally, if you were a mutant or a normal human, you'd be transformed. Dracula bites her, and she shakes off his control. You have this scene right here, where she's about to become a Brood, but with the help of Carol, she does it. But she's always resisting things. So I don't know if one day down the road they're going to say that she's somewhat of a demigod, but it would not surprise me. And you heard it here first. Just throwing that out there. Probably somebody else has already said it too, but you heard it here first on my channel. So, X-Men 166. Live Free or Die. So when I was looking up comic price guide, that's the first site I usually like to go to, and then I think it's Go Comics. I should do an episode talking about all the different sites I like to go to do my research. But this is the issue that I was just talking about, where you learn more about the economy. And this is a great cover. I mean, you got a lot of action. You know, the X-Men are getting down. They know everything's on the line. I want to say that Wolverine discovers that Scott's already partially turning, and the aftermath is they barely survive. The Akanti, after they defeat the Brood, heal them all. But as the final Brood Queen is dying, she leaves a hint that there's still one more on the planet and that they've won after all. Which leads us to 167. So the X-Men have a minor clash with the New Mutants. Professor X does transform into a Brood. They capture him. Wolverine tries to kill him. Scott says no. I mean, this is always a conflict between those two. At the end, the Shi'ar come down and they help her. They help Professor X and they transform him back to being normal. And at the end, he's also able to start walking. But here's what I thought was interesting. Okay, so you're the X-Men. You're coming home. You know, we got to get back because we think Professor X is a Brood. Right? And so here are the New Mutants. You're at home, now at the mansion, watching TV. The nice splash page. Why would the X-Men just come busting through a mansion that they live in? I mean, I know they've been gone away for a while, but just wanted to make sure that you guys really get a chance to see that. But I always thought that part was funny. They're like, what, we don't have a key? Colossus people are going in through the window? So they have a minor tuffle with the New Mutants, who we all know can't hang, and they shouldn't be able to. As you see there in my notes. Ta-da! And next up is X-Men 168. So the title of this book is Professor Xavier is a Jerk. And the reason why it's named that, thank you, Captain Obvious, Professor Xavier is a jerk. I thought this was a great splash page, so I thought I'd show it to you all. So she's demoted. Professor X comes back. He decides to demote her to the New Mutants, and she goes about her day trying to convince him that she shouldn't be a New Mutant. Nightcrawler and Wolverine at one point are having a discussion, and Wolverine saying, hey, or Nightcrawler brings it up, and Wolverine's like, she's already proven herself. I think she should stay. Nightcrawler's like, I agree with you, but I just want to get a second opinion. Sorry. I thought the UPS guy was going to come knocking at the door. And I was like, no, I'm almost done with this video. Why am I being interrupted? And at the very end, she proves herself was lucky by killing the remainder of some hunters that were left by the brood. And at the very end, this is the first appearance of Madeline Pryor. So you see her. I had to look that up on Wikipedia because I couldn't find it right off the bat. So if anybody knows that this is not the first appearance of Madeline Pryor, please let me know in the comments down below. And if you're new to the channel, hello. I hope you've enjoyed so far about learning about this X-Men run and why I feel passionate about their stories, especially during this era. And we come to the last book for this episode. I got like 2 post-it notes because there's a lot going down in this book. First of all, Uncanny X-Men 169 is the first appearance of the Morlock. So it's Callisto, Plague, Mystique, and Sunder. Now, for those of you who pick up for this book for the first time and have not read Uncanny X-Men number 148, you would think that this is also the first appearance of Caliban. But it's not. It's Uncanny X-Men 148, which is why you should always do your homework. Doesn't matter if I say it's the first appearance, doesn't matter whoever, do your own research and verify. It's great, not just in comic books, but in life. So it starts off, Angel is kidnapped by Callisto, and you find out who the Morlocks are, and she's like, well, I'm a queen, so I should have a king. So the X-Men follow, and they're trying not to hurt the Morlocks at first, but, things are just going down. Kitty decides to scout ahead. She gets attacked by Plague, who touches her while she's phasing, but it still leaves some of his poisonous particles on her for a second. When she unphases, she becomes deathly ill and is starting to die. And that's when Caliban finds her, and he wants to save her and see if we can make a deal with Callisto and Plague to heal her. So maybe she'll feel gratitude and want to stay with him. At the very end of this book, Sebastian, they cut over to the Hellfire Club, and Sebastian Shaw is shown, or is informed by Tessa, his aide, Tessa, that Emma Frost is in a coma and they don't know why. And that's how they end the book. So I was like, whoa, okay. And I use this book right here as kind of like a place marker to help me show you the book. So hopefully you'll see it all. And I really hope this book's in focus, because I bought this book in April when I first started getting back into comics. And as you can see, there is a $200 price tag on this book. And the reason why I left it on there, because I got it on eBay for $100 with shipping. And I paid $85 because I had $15 off. So I felt really good about this. As I was saying before, my first goal is to collect X-Men 100 through 300, because those are the books that I can realistically afford. And then giant size X-Men, and then go back to collect as many of these type of issues right here. So this is X-Men number 8. This is the first appearance of Eunice, the Untouchable, who becomes a member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And I believe he's passed away because Beast hit him with a ray, and his powers were that he couldn't turn them off, so eventually he just fades away. And I think that's what I remember about Eunice, the Untouchable. But to get this book for me for $100 and then only pay $85, I thought was great. So get a good look at that. I just love this cover. I like the action in it. It's just the lettering. I hope I can get you guys to see what a good pickup this was. And this is like as far as condition goes, what I paid for it, I'm pretty happy with it. This is a book that I will definitely be getting CGC graded. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. And as you've noticed, my phone hasn't fallen off. And the reason why my phone hasn't fallen off is because last night I picked up one of these. which I'm endorsing. So if you're doing your own little YouTube channel and you want to use your phone, this is a great device. So that'll do it. If you like what you see, hit the like button, leave a comment below about any issue in particular that you've enjoyed of the X-Men. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you later. Now I gotta walk off my little stage. All right, then. Have a good week.